With a news update on WHTC Holland's Cool FM, I'm Gary Stevens. An unnamed 48-year-old Hudsonville man could consider himself fortunate after his SUV was struck by a train between Zeeland and Hudsonville yesterday afternoon. The man was attempting to pull out of the active tooling complex off of Chicago Drive between 64th and 56th Avenues around 4:40 p.m. His vehicle went in front of the oncoming eastbound train, causing a collision. The driver suffered minor injuries, while the two unnamed engineers on board the train were not hurt. The train itself was damaged, but was able to continue operations. The incident remains under investigation. Two missing endangered persons from the lake shore were found safe yesterday. The Ottawa County Sheriff's Office said that Dennis King, a 77-year-old Grand Haven man afflicted with dementia, who had walked away from Trinity Health Muskegon 9 days ago, was spotted by Chicagoland police. At last report, he was receiving medical treatment in Illinois, and efforts were being made to return him home. On Monday, 62-year-old Lori Lumen of Saugatuck went missing while visiting friends in the Gaylord area. Afflicted with various ailments, she had left without her smartphone. State police issued an initial advisory yesterday afternoon, but then sent a cancellation about 90 minutes later when the woman was located by troopers. The circumstances in which King and Lumen were discovered were not disclosed. Technology in the classroom is necessary in this day and age, but efforts are being made to temper its use. Paw Paw Public Schools is expanding its Disconnect to Reconnect program, aiming to cut down on unnecessary screen time on school-issued Chromebooks while restricting smartphone usage within school hours. Starting this fall, those Chromebooks can only be used during assigned class time and must remain in the classroom. Holland Public Schools has similar technology restrictions in place, and district spokesman Jason Craner understands what the Red Wolves in the Van Buren County seat want to do.
The heart of what they're trying to do is get kids to lift their heads up and look at each other and have connection with each other and have connection with teachers. And if we're always with our heads down and that's the only way we're making connections, that's not going to create a healthy student.
Classes at Holland Public Schools begin on August 27th. The Shark is going back into the Lake Michigan waters this summer. Ultramarathon swimmer Jim Dreyer will attempt to tow 250 cannonballs, weighing a total of 1,500 pounds, 22 miles into Whitehall. This effort, slated to begin on August 7th and conclude the following day, is a fundraising effort for the construction of the U.S. 250th Combat Veterans Memorial there, and his arrival is timed to coincide with the White Lake Area Maritime Festival. The 62-year-old Spring Lake man, who has successfully crossed all 5 Great Lakes in his career since overcoming a childhood fear of water, explained why the 22 miles is a poignant figure to him.
22 is the number most associated with a number of daily veteran suicides. And so, cannonballs represent the weight of war on the battlefield, but they also represent the weight that many veterans feel when they return to civilian life.
Last year, Dreyer organized a relay group of swimmers who delivered iron ore pellets from the site of the sinking of the freighter Edmund Fitzgerald in Lake Superior to Detroit on the 50th anniversary of that ill-fated voyage. Kalamazoo County Sheriff Rick Fuller is thanking those who had come to the aid of a wounded deputy last week and subsequently helped apprehend the suspect.
He says Deputy Caleb Mortimer is facing a serious recovery for a bullet wound to one of his legs.
This is a significant injury that the deputy has suffered. But after surgery and the initial care, that person's been released to go home to continue their care.
28-year-old suspect Jalen Lipsey is a former felon. He's being held on $1 million bond and is charged with 14 crimes, including assault with intent to murder, carjacking, and various other assault and weapons charges. I'm Michael Arning.
Rothbury residents are calling for better security at the annual Electric Forest Music Festival held at the Double J Resort following the discovery last month of a dead newborn baby. The Village Council met last night for the first time since the incident. Village President Mike Harris acknowledged the gravity of what occurred. The baby's mother has yet to be identified. Harris says the baby's death is a sobering and heartbreaking reality that nobody can set aside. Convicted murderer Brandon Ortiz Vite has filed a lawsuit against President Donald Trump and 2024 campaign spokesman Stephen Chung for using his name and likeness in campaign ads. Ortiz Vite is serving between 37 and 100 years in prison for killing his 25-year-old girlfriend Ruby Garcia in March of 2024, dumping her body along U.S. 131 near Leonard Street. He is suing over the campaign ads that vilified undocumented immigrants such as him and says the ads pushed him to take a plea deal. Ortiz Vite is asking for $75.5 million in punitive damages, naturalization in the U.S., and a public apology from Mr. Trump. Michigan schools are being ranked as among some of the worst school systems in the country. Wallet Hub compared the school systems of all 50 states and D.C. based on metrics such as performance, safety, class size, and instructor credentials. Michigan finished 33rd in that study. This survey comes as Governor Whitmer yesterday signed a $22.9 billion education budget, which includes efforts to improve student literacy. That's something that House Education and Workforce Committee Chairwoman Nancy DeBoer of Holland wanted to see.
We managed to pass the bill that helped all the rest of the teachers get trained in how to teach reading with phonetics, which is the effective way. And we kind of wandered from that for a while, and this really shores it up so that all the rest of the teachers will have that training.
The top spot in the Wallet Hub report went to Massachusetts. The bottom went to New Mexico. President Trump will hold a rally in Oakland County on Monday as early in-person voting in Michigan gets underway on Saturday for the August 4th primary election. Mr. Trump has endorsed Congressman John James in the Republican primary for governor as he faces businessman Perry Johnson. The president won Michigan in 2016 and 2024, lost in 2020 to Joe Biden. The location for the rally is yet to be disclosed. The fiscal 2027 general fund state budget was signed by Governor Whitmer yesterday without ceremony. She avoided questions about an upcoming budget analysis from the Citizens Research Council of Michigan, which claims the spending plan is between $600 to $900 million less than what is needed. Whitmer said in Grand Rapids that the budget is balanced, she's proud of it, and had to make a lot of hard decisions. Governor Whitmer also says there's still time for lawmakers to again pass 9 bills that had been approved in the 2023-24 term, but she had vetoed them when they finally arrived at her desk earlier this month. She claims House Republicans played games with the bills, preventing them from advancing to her for her signatures until the courts ordered them to do so. GOP leaders counter that the bills were deliberately held up at the time by outgoing Democratic House Speaker Joe Tate in order to have the legislation be seen as coming from the new lower chamber. Wildfire smoke from Canada has resulted in over $4 billion in economic losses in Michigan. That estimate is from East Lansing-based Anderson Economic Group, who claims New York suffered $5 billion in losses, Wisconsin nearly $2 billion. The losses are from amusement park closures, cancellations of outdoor events and event spaces, such as the Macatawa Water Festival last weekend, health club closures, public parks being shut down, workers needing medical attention after breathing the smoke, and warnings about working, exercising, or even sitting outside. More losses are expected as the smoke continues to cover the region. A joint U.S.-Canadian ceremony planned for Friday to celebrate the opening of the Gordie Howe International Bridge connecting Detroit and Windsor has been canceled by Ottawa. The move follows President Trump announcing a 50% tariff on most goods imported from Canada due to what he calls an unfair discrimination against American alcohol and dairy products and automobiles. Canada will hold its own ceremony on Friday. The span is still expected to open for traffic on Monday. Changes to Michigan's unemployment law are now in effect. Beginning this week, those receiving unemployment benefits must report at least 3 work search activities weekly. Previously, those receiving benefits only had to provide 1 work search activity each week. Work search activities include things such as applying for jobs and or attending job fairs. Dovetailing coverage from NBC News, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth is done testifying about Iran conflict funding in the Senate, facing pointed questions about the timeline and Iran's military capabilities from U.S. Senator Gary Peters of Bloomfield Hills and fellow Democrats.
You don't have a strategy. You don't have a long-term plan to actually win this war. When will you show leadership?
We have leadership.
When will you show leadership?
Why don't you show some leadership and stand up to your fellow Democrats who won't fund the troops, who stand and play partisan politics while you don't give us the money?
With the conflict escalating, Hegseth told the Senate Appropriations Committee the White House's $88 billion supplemental funding request, which Hegseth referred to in the clip, is critical to ensure America's military readiness across the board. Several Democratic senators passed statements from the secretary that Iran's missile program was functionally destroyed after the regime just attacked an American military base in Jordan, killing 2 soldiers, and continues to strike cargo ships in the Strait of Hormuz. But Hegseth insisted that Iran is at the weakest point military that's ever been in the past decade. Hegseth was joined in the testimony by Joint Chiefs Chair General Dan Kane. Carson Kelly's 2-run single highlighted a 6-run Chicago first inning off of Detroit starter Framber Valdez. And Craig Counsell's Cubs went on to clobber the visiting Tigers last night 11-2.
Team approach was really good tonight offensively. We made it hard on them. Maybe we caught a couple breaks, but we made it hard on them and had really good at bats. And it was just a move the line type of inning that we did a really good job of. And if you get a starter like that out in the first inning, you've collectively and team wide had a really good approach.
The series at Wrigley Field concludes this evening with coverage from Dan Dickerson at 7:40 p.m. on WHTC Holland's Cool FM. Kumar Rocker and Marco Gonzalez teamed on a 3-hit, 8-strikeout shutout as Skip Schumacher's Texas Rangers whitewashed the visiting Chicago White Sox last night in Arlington 10-0.
It always starts with starting pitching, always. Rock set the tone. We needed a strong start. We needed a reset in that bullpen, so the offense really helped with that.
The series at Globe Life Field in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex concludes this evening. Jack Gurevich and Ty Pete combined to slug 5 homers and drive in 9 runs as the Peoria Chiefs routed the visiting West Michigan Whitecaps last night 16-3. The series at Dozer Park continues this afternoon. Get the latest news anytime at WHTC.com.